Hey guys, it's Tom. I'm out for my more or less nightly constitutional, as they say, and I wanted to do a quick video about existentialism, which is really an enormous topic. So, given its breadth, to be relatively focused in the few minutes I have here and inflect only one aspect of that tradition, which I think really we could benefit from recalling with a certain energy. Because in part because it was assembled in the vortex of a time, in the wake of, during and in the wake of the Second World War, where all the narratives all the inherited narratives which were traditionally give meaning to our existences were being challenged and even in a way falling apart as a consequence of the violence and the uncertainty of that time. And there are, unfortunately, no shortage of analogies between that time and our own. But even apart from the sort of historical resonance between what's going on with the existentialist movement, some of its basic propositions have a currency in no matter what age. And amongst those basic propositions, the one that I'm going to foreground is freedom. You need to be reminded that we are free. And that's a word that's thrown about, it's bandied about, probably with a regrettable frequency, a sufficiently regrettable frequency that it becomes almost trite. So let's make a disciplined effort to resist that impression and sort of drill down to what it's really getting at. The traditional formulation is this: that we are condemned to be free, that insofar as there is a human essence, paradoxically, it is that we cannot be reduced to a singular identity, a singular determination, that we are not just the outcomes of our facticity. That at any given moment, there is a capacity to strike out along a different trajectory than that which we have so far followed. The notion of identity, the notion of having an identity, is incredibly alluring. There's this temptation that we can define ourselves around a role or a constellation of roles, around a specific set of demarcated obligations, and from that assemblage, that constellation, come to a certain comfort, the comfort of certitude. The problem that arises in connection with that comfort is it ultimately deadens us. It ultimately cuts us off from the color of our lives and from other people. Because as soon as we assume a fixed identity, we imply that others are similarly determined, similarly subject to the mechanism of that assignment, that role or set of roles. Recalling the fundamental fact of our freedom, the fundamental fact that whatever we are not merely these roles, we are not merely these circumstances, that we have a an ability to transcend and move beyond them is really incumbent upon us, not only because that living in that space of awareness is what vivifies this encounter we have called life, right? It's not just that it reanimates our experience as worthwhile. It's also incumbent upon us, if we consider the simple truth, to have a kind of force. And oftentimes we don't want to admit just how radically free we are. Oftentimes we want to pass the buck on to the implications of our identity. We had to do this because that's what this sort of person does, right? I had to do this because, this is what a student does. A student takes a GRE in order to apply to go to graduate school, or whatever the circumstance is that characterizes your own life. There is, in fact, no such exigency, no such necessity. We all could just get up and just walk away from whatever our life is right now. And I'm not saying that's easy, and I'm not saying that's without consequence, but it is a reality that we would rather put to the side. And that putting to the side, that evasion, is living in a bad faith, both with oneself and with others. Now, of course, what's really crucial to add to this point is that in realizing one's freedom, one then also is confronted with a comparatively radical responsibility, both to oneself and to other beings. And there's no more relying on stories and fictions and narratives of obligations or material force. No, that luxury is left behind as a very dangerous deception, right? And it's in this space of openness that we come to the possibility of real integrity. So when I say we can benefit from the tradition of existentialism and should perhaps re-embrace it at this junction and build upon it at this junction, it is with the conviction that tradition was able to highlight in various ways what's involved in real integrity. And paradoxically, in light of it, well, maybe not paradoxically, but in light of its reputation, also become a counterpoint to the fragmented, fractured, deleterious condition in which most conversations of import find themselves. And I just, to sum it all up, right, what I really, if I was going to sum all this up in a quote from a kind of existentialist, right, because it too is a label, and he himself was not particularly happy about the label because of its sort of imprecise qualities. But there's this great line from Albert Camus, who is often classed in that group of individuals we call existentialists, and that is this, right? Integrity needs no rules. That doesn't mean that one is hapless. No, what it means is that one realizes that rules are at best a guideline, and that real responsibility means living in a crisp awareness of the situation in front of you and treating it as a free, concerned, and engaged being. So, I'll leave it there, guys. Ciao for now.